Let's go.
All right, welcome back to Tout Bright, the best place to increase your salary, pay raises, and promotions with negotiations. I have a wonderful guest here with over 20 years of experience in the finance industry, Jocelyn Chon.
Thank you very much for having me, Rafi, and has been a good, fun time getting to know you. And we talk about a lot of things prior to this podcast opportunity. So I am very honored to be able to jump on your show today.
Right, so my show is all about like that negotiation stories and things like that. But let's take a little step back. Why don't you tell the audience a little snapshot of your career as far as like how many jobs you had and how long you had each job?
Yes, so 20 years in the corporate world. Started off with Ernst& Young, which is a global accounting company. And then I progressed to my client, who was one of my Ernst& Young clients. And I worked with them for a year. They are one of our global recycling company as well, Visi, which they have got companies across different parts of the world. From there, I decided to pursue my banking career. So I went to work for the largest bank in Australia under 9 years. And then I furthered my career as a state manager with the third largest bank. And after that, I went into premium and private banking with the second largest bank in Australia. So yes, a bit of my career journey has been very much in the finance sector and a lot to do with leading teams, helping teams get their revenue, look after clients, generating over 200 million in revenue, and also really helping our clients make their best life and create the best business as well. So we have got so many divisions across the banking sector, and we negotiate all the time around what is the best way for both parties to win.
Awesome. That sounds like a great career. Could we take a moment to look at when you first started? So your first job out of college, if you or the first corporate job, if that was it. Could you take us to what the interviewing was like? Did you negotiate for a higher salary at that point, or did you just kind of feel gracious that you had a job right out of college?
So I was very privileged. I joined Ernst& Young graduate program, and everyone start on the same base pay. But what I was able to negotiate was asking for projects that were in line with what I wanted to learn and grow. So I did a number of clients like BHP, transportation clients, technology clients, but I also negotiated to work with nonprofit because the way they do their P&L, which is a profit and loss statement and income review, is completely different. And so that gave me a lot of exposure. And one of them was one of the Channel 9 news company and media company in Australia. By having that level of exposure gave me so much insights because I get to walk into the studios, I get to see how people are filming things. And that was such a great insight for me because, then it gave me so much of scope across, nonprofit, profit organization. And of course, there's manufacturing, there's recycling, there's banking, there's all the mining companies, BHP, which is one of my largest one. And under that, there's 12 subsidiary group. So broad scope and great exposure.
Wow. So it sounds like even though you were capped at like a specific salary range entering in, you were able to negotiate some really nice bonuses. Like being able to walk into a studio, that sounds really fun.
Yes, yes, definitely. And a lot of times, I think when we negotiate, we always think that it is just the monetary aspect. But where I've found throughout my career is that sometimes the monetary aspect is capped because there is a certain level of package that you're offered. Having said that, there's so many ways for you to request or ask for other things to complement your salary package, which I did many a times because I excelled, I asked and I work long hours. So I also asked for plums up a lot of projects that I get exposure among, 135 people. I'm the only one getting the exposure. I had done so many projects like that. Yes, it is more work, but I prefer the skills because, with skills, then you are able to negotiate the next salary pay rise. And one of the examples I had was I realized that I was not paid equally. But when you're
How
not
did
paid
you figure
equally,
that
you
out?
can't just walk in to ask for pay rise, right? And I realized that how I found that out was because there was a spreadsheet that was circulated around without password protection. And I opened up that spreadsheet. I started together with this gentleman. And because he's male, he plays cricket, he plays footy, and he knew how to speak the lingo with my boss. I didn't do any of those. And so I wasn't paid as high. And in Australia, the pay gap is still about 18 to 20% under for female comparison to male pay scale. So there's nothing that we can actually ask for a jump sometimes because every year in the corporate world, there is a budget that is allocated to every layer of the division. And they can only do a pay rise out of cycle under very extreme circumstances. Now, the way to do that is whether you move to a division elsewhere or you move out of the organization. Now, I knew that at that point in time, I also did my master's. And so for me to jump to another organization and asking for 36,000 pay rise was so much easier because I've got the skills.
Wait, hold up a
And
sec.
they may not pay.
You had a gap of 36,000 from the guy that started at the exact same time as you?
Yeah.
That's huge. Like you're just like breezing right through that. I mean, that's an enormous gap for people that started at the same time and had the same role. Is that right? And
But
just
male
because he
is
was like smoothing out with like the boss, he knew like the different lingo that was the big difference. Interesting. Okay, keep going.
so when you think about, female women of color, I don't have that level of, I didn't go to school in Australia. There's so many areas unspoken that has been made known. And so when I realized about that, I knew that I could compensate that. And also at that point in time, I always trusted my boss that he's going to do the right thing by me. But sometimes that trust can be taken in the wrong way. So I've done a great deal. And, I learn now to know how to stop, underpaying other people. And there was a period of time for 2 years, the whole organization needs to sink in everyone else's pay. And yeah, at the end of the day, they realize that there's so much gap in that. And that's the reality of the finance industry, is who you know is not what you know. And so that can make such a big difference. And my advice to everyone is, number one, you got to do your work. Now, I can tell you easily now the steps to do it because, of the 20 years of experience being a leader myself and having people negotiated their salary with me, moving across 4 major organizations and knowing the pay scale across the nation. Every single state has got a different pay scale. Every single region that you look after have got different pay scale, and every bonus potential is negotiated, right? Why? Let me tell you why. When you allocate bonus, it's on the day. There is a gap between 24 to 48 hours that you have a pool filtering through down to my level. And so I need to distribute that. And it's a percentage that you add in when you allocate. And that percentage can be a couple of $1,000s. And when you have got tension, you got timeline that you need to do something, that 24 hours, sometimes someone triggers you the wrong way. You're like, you know what, I'll just run it up. Give someone else 6%, 8%, and that's a few $1,000s. And it could be the last 4 weeks they really perform really well. And so you think you want to reward them. So all these emotions play in terms of the bonus potential component. And so where I think it's important is to always do well and always come with evidence of success. when you negotiate, I did not know all that until I learned all that by hiring an executive coach myself to know, you know what, it's not the last month when the pay rise negotiation period comes in. It starts from the day you walk into the office. It starts from the day that every single piece of project you excel in, you are going to actually ask for pay rise because you got evidence to demonstrate that. So create, number one, a folder on your inbox about all the success stories that you have achieved, because success stories are going to be supporting your performance discussion.
That's interesting. So I'm just curious, what did you have in your folder, if you don't mind me asking? Like, kind of success did you measure? I'm sure like someone who's in the finance industry could pretty easily show how much money they're earning a company. Is that right?
Correct. So success stories that back up what you do is, for us in Australia, there was a lot of period of time where we are rewarded every single quarter. So you know how well you're doing by the numbers. That's one KPI. Number two is how well you serve your customers. How many complaints or how many compliments? Now, every single compliments count. It's harder to get compliments than it is for complaints. When things are right, a lot of people expect it, people don't praise it. But if you knew how to win your clients and they write you a praise report, they are gems. They are something that you keep in your success folder. The other thing is build relationships. It is your senior or someone else that will reward and say something in a team meeting and go, Rafi has done so well. This particular client, Peter, that he served the last 6 months, nothing was short. Everything was on time. The quality, the results, the clients, the energy, the people, everything that he has delivered, top quality. Who can not reward you when you know that? The second thing is you need to know your market rate as well, right? Always, in my view, keep a good list of human resource recruitment team in your contacts, because they will tell you what's in the market and what's the market rate, because things change so much in the recruitment space. And understand what's your value. If you got a skill, what sort of skills can you add to a company? Is people are paying for skills. So the difference is that if you can deliver quality and you got talents and you deliver at a level that stand out amongst all your peers, that's where you're going to get rewarded financially.
Can you hear me now? Okay, sorry about that, some mic issues. So what skills did you find out that you had to add to your repertoire that were considered more valuable than others?
Negotiation skills was really important. Skills around visibility. So a lot of people like to hide and they don't really want to show that they can do something, or they just prefer to hide because they're lazy.
Were you shy or lazy?
But I learned to be visible. By nature, I am not born an introvert. And I knew that for me to survive in a foreign country where I don't have network, I knew no one, I had to learn to be visible. I had to learn a lot of skills. And over time, once you practice that, you get better at that. So I'm very visible. I will visit every team because I've always led a region, and a region would have about 30 to 40 stores or advisors. And I always go and visit them, say hi, run their team meetings, be present, always be there. And when they want you, you show your face rather than hiding behind a phone or a text that people know that you're there, but you're never seen. So if you're in a front of line role, it's very important to stay visible. It's important to ask questions and, be curious about things. A lot of times people don't ask questions and people just assume things to happen. Now, it's important to participate and be an active participant, that you contribute to the vision of the company. So because, the audience that we're talking today more so are corporate. So, actively participate in things. and bring your best foot forward when you work, because then you are adding value to the vision, the mission, and the goal of the company. And demonstrate that by evidencing that. Have a folder that evidence that all the time. A lot of people expect that your manager knows everything about you. The reality is that your manager at the same time has got quite a few things on their plate. So sometimes they don't give you feedback. Ask for feedback, because don't assume, you can't read someone's mind. I have never mastered that. I have not known anything that can help me read someone else's mind. The only way that is most effective is ask for feedback. What do you think? How do you feel? What was that? What's the thoughts that come up? How was that negotiation? How was that project outcome? And don't get defensive when the feedback wasn't, what you hope it to be, because that's your opportunity to close your gap. And that's an opportunity for you to learn to then accelerate your growth. But a lot of people don't want to ask for feedback because they fear the feedback is bad. But if you actually want to grow, you need to, learn from the feedback.
So could you give me an example of feedback that was bad that you were able to turn around in one of the negotiations that you've done?
My first year as a leader, I knew it all because I had this attitude that before I be promoted to a manager, I was one of the top performers. I go to conferences all the time, the best of the best. I was awarded every single quarter. I would excel in every single product line item. And so I think that I knew it all as a manager. I was terrible at listening. I didn't want to listen because I just want to tell them what to do, because I knew it all. And I wanted them to be like me. And then we did the 360 feedback. I don't know whether I'm pretty sure every company does that, but every layer of our organization did that. And the feedback was so clear that I was such a terrible listener. And I was like, how dare they tell me I'm a terrible listener? I'm the top performer. And that bruised my ego so badly. But I knew that if I don't start to listen, I will not succeed. So over time, it didn't happen overnight because my ego was bruised. And I realized that I need to turn that around. I read so many John Maxwell books. I don't know if you ever heard of him as a leadership guru. I read Zig Ziglar's book. I read Dale Carnegie's book. I read Stephen Covey's book, and all of them taught me so much about listening. But they didn't show me what listening looked like. And so it is actually an art to listen actively. Well, the blessing of being in a large organization is that you get to attend a lot of training programs, and they teach you how to listen as an active listener. So the art of being an active listener is to really be present and have great eye contact and take notes and reconfirm what notes you took is whether accurate or not, and really have that dialogue. Now, that's not an overnight skill that I acquired. It took me time. But when I start to master that and I learn that and I implement that and I apply that in my life, things started to change rapidly. So listening and listening actively is so important. And then to further that skill is, once you know how to listen so well, you are able to coach someone really well, because coaching is to be holding space and listen to that person 100% in that zone to enable them to speak in a judgment-free space. And when you can coach and ask the right questions and get them to think in a way that they know how to look for their own answers, that's where true magic begins. So yeah, those are a journey, that I
Very
learned.
cool.
And
So
yeah.
I would love to hear how you approached your boss when you found out that you had over a 30K gap in salary. If you don't mind talking about that story.
Yes, I think what I did was really having, so the one thing I think is really important when you want to approach someone that you're not happy with, which a lot of people sometimes address this at a group level, is to actually have a conversation private one-on-one. Never address a conflict in a group. So important is to book a time. I don't know about how your company works or any other companies, but I always want to recommend that you always create a one-on-one conversation time with your boss. If you don't that monthly, do that every quarter. When I was a leader, my team gets half an hour one-on-one with me. It's their time. They can ask me any questions about their business, and more often than not, they use that as a coaching time for, things beyond business, because a lot of things that happen in your life, actually you bring it to your business. So I had that conversation with him. I'm like, do you think you can get me a bit better pay rise? It's like, you know what, this is out of cycle, it's impossible, and all that. There is 4 to 5 lists of, you're already paid, pay gap, you're performing really well. It's just something else that we can negotiate for you differently. So what I did was, they can't increase my pay because out of cycle pay rise doesn't happen unless you're someone super ultra important, and I wasn't in that position. But I negotiated that they give me other projects that can compensate me in a way that I'm going to learn. They gave me a lot of growth programs that other people don't do it. So there is other ways that you can actually attend something that pay for that entire package, that is not going to compensate you from a dollar perspective, but going to give you other opportunity of growth. So seize that. Like, I had then offered and say, you know what, I'm not going to take leave to attend external executive coaching program that I'm part of. So that can be compensated when you work out the sum of hours that you work and all that. So that's another one. So I hired my own executive coach, which is one, and they know that. And I said, I just wanted someone objective to give me an objective point of view rather than someone in-house, because sometimes in-house there is another agenda. Obviously, their agenda could be a whole host of reasons and things. So I paid that out of my own pocket. I was also sent to a lot of programs that was 1 out of 100 people would attend. I was in a program for 12 months, the top of the top, which I didn't need to actually pay for it, and they sponsored me for it. So you can ask for other things that compensate that, and you can attend other things that you pay for that you don't have to take leave. So it's how you know how to negotiate. But I think whatever the negotiation outcome is, both parties needs to win.
Interesting. So did you stay at that company after they had their cycle, I guess, for the next pay raise?
No, because I managed to secure a better role as well, and I managed to progress my career elsewhere.
So you wound up leaving. Would they have given you a raise? Was it like on their books to say, okay, once this cycle comes around, we'll discuss it, or was it kind of very flaky?
I don't think so, because it's hard to give such a big pay gap a raise, because you don't have the pool to do that.
That's interesting.
And it's just sometimes the salary packages have got the old legacy way of calculating it and the new legacy way of doing it, and sometimes the gap can be 40,000-50,000 because there is so many changes, and sometimes we'll have a grandfathered method. So over time, over the 15 years, I think it would just sort of flatten. But there was periods where, people come in at different scale, and it was negotiated, and bosses give the lowest way to get you in. They know that you're hungry, you're motivated, you want to, learn. So they take everything you offer.
That's incredible. So let's switch to the other side, if you will, for the management perspective. So you talk about having those kind of like set cycles where it's limited for that manager, whether it's like lower or mid-level managers to do anything. But you also mentioned that there's a lot of like legacy programs that really restrict how salary could work. Is there anything else that people in the finance industry kind of like have tucked away as far as like a managers know, but the employees usually don't know when they're trying to negotiate. So if they've like,
So
hey, I would
we
love a
do.
raise, and then you're like, nope, because of these 7 reasons that I can't tell you.
So we do talent management twice a year. So like it or not, everyone, it is 1 to 100 something, right? At different job families that you are in. We do talent management for a reason. We know that if there is a restructure that happens, we've got ready data to know who we can plug in. And if there's a restructure, we know what percentage we want to cut out. That's just the reality of things, right? So talent management is so important because if you are someone who is active, you want to grow, we can always give you secondment positions. And I am one of those that I put out my hand for a lot of secondment positions. I get to travel across the whole Australia to really taste different regions, different environment, different types of clientele. And that allows you to grow and accelerate quickly. So take advantage of that. If you don't ask, and when they come and you're prepared to take the opportunity as well, you never grow. It's all up to you, because at the same time, those type of projects can come very quickly and you got to be ready to pack up and go. So I had projects that I could do for 3 months and I need to make that decision in 2 hours, whether I'm prepared to fly in and fly out for 12 weeks.
Wow.
Now, I did that while I was doing my MBA, and I thought I will find a solution around that. I would study over the weekend and I would use every single time I'm on the plane to do my readings or whatever it may be. But if you are willing to do that, there is opportunities available for you. And also with talent management, they know who to send for the next training. Across our leadership desk, we come across so many opportunities. It's sometimes for me, people are not interested because there's more time required to do something more. Ultimately, when you work, it is your skills that is most valuable, not your qualifications, not a lot of other things. It is your skill, because it's your skill that you can take anywhere with you. So when you acquire those skills, no one can take that away from you. A lot of people are, would do 8 hours, but doesn't mean you sit at 8 hours on the desk that you actually upgrade your skill. Upgrading your skill means you take action. You take action outside the box, you test, you learn, you experiment, you do trial and error, you stay curious and you learn. It takes energy, and not many would
A lot
want
of
to devote
energy.
to that.
That sounds like crazy. As a senior procrastinator who enjoys a lot of like free time, it sounds like that is an incredible amount of workload managing your MBA on top of a full-time job, and like being able to like, at a 2-day notice, or was it 2-hour notice, to be able to like fly across. That sounds incredible. And obviously it worked out for you, I think, with a successful career in finance. Um, was there something that you thought would work out when you were kind of working through the ranks, but now as a manager realized was kind of like not actually helping you?
I think for me, I was someone who was rather slow in terms of noticing how to integrate into the next layer of seniority. So I was ambitious. I moved to the first layer of managerial, the second layer of managerial. But as you go further up into head, and then the further up, the next level, it's not so much what numbers you can deliver anymore. It's who you know that you can bring business. So it's a whole nother level of skill set that you can't go to uni and learn that. You can't take that from Yale or Harvard. It is something that you need to learn on the job, and you got to learn how to be a great networker. You need to learn how to speak at different levels and address different groups of clientele. You need to be able to be so engaging, and those skill sets you can only learn on the go. Like we had to pick up on presenting or roll out a system or do an agile type of project and quickly, progress. The change management aspect is just like quick and, fast. And you got to be able to adapt, because by the time, if you go, take 6 weeks and then, 6 weeks pass by, you have not adapted, someone else have adapted to that 6 weeks ago. And so those type of ability is so important, and be ready for that. But at the same time, you want to do what suits your soul, because there are times where, there's certain things that doing those things may not actually suits you and what you enjoy doing and doesn't make you happy. So ultimately, when your body tells you that you are not in alignment with your purpose on the planet, because the stress, the tension, the disease will actually reveal itself in your body. So do
That's
something
crazy.
that you are in your own superpowers. There's a lot of job out there that people are doing for the sake of exchanging money for time. You're not going to be happy if you do that long term, because all of us are created for a reason and to live in our own talents and our own skills. My advice is that do something you absolutely love, because you don't want to spend 10 hours of your life, 30 years of what you do, and you don't enjoy it. And then you long for Friday night. You hate Monday. How many Mondays can you hate on for 30 years?
That's crazy. So that leads us to what are you doing now? Because like you had a 20-year history in finance. So what brings you joy?
So what brings me joy today is I seen so many of my advisors, my team members light up every time I coach them. And I would leave that meeting go, that facial expression when someone just go, oh my God, that is just gold. And that like they're beaming. I just love that. And I see that because I not only see that, I correlate that with the results they bring into their world, their clients, their home. And I go, if I can do this more every single day, I want to do that even more. So what I do today is I transition all the skills that I have and I combine all that with my qualifications, and I blend in all the work that I do for myself, because along the way, I also realized that I had a lot of blocks and areas that I did not really do well, that I need to come into terms and let them go and relearn new skills. I combine all that. And today I am an intuitive business coach. What that means is that I know the strategy of running a business. I've been there, I've done that with large organization, with the stock exchange organization. Equally, I also then combine all my pain, my learnings, my past, my challenges, and how I overcome them into helping people who want to transition their professional life into their skills, into setting up their own business. So that is my passion today. I want to empower people to actually earn with ease, because once they are in their zone of genius and they acknowledge that, they allow that into their world, they are at their happiest. Because far too many people aren't given a chance to discover that as well. And so I am here to serve. I'm here to help those people to really uncover their superpowers and how to integrate that into their day-to-day job. It could be a profession that they absolutely want to excel in, or it could be setting up their own business. So that's what I do today.
Very cool. And I'll make sure to post links in the comment section below so people can find you. That's really amazing, and that's incredible story. So I guess as far as parting thoughts go, if you look across your career, you did a fantastic job, it sounds like, with your negotiation skills. And whenever you had these gaps, you kind of like realized it. You kind of had to internalize it first, right? The defensiveness, but then you were able to slowly overcome that. Um, is there any things that you would have changed? Looking at like maybe some negotiations, maybe ask for a raise earlier, those kind of things, spy on secret spreadsheets, sooner, look for them.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was a very proud person in the past. I never want to fail because I don't believe in failure. And I always think that I'm the best. So I didn't want to listen to advice at the initial stage of life. So it was really hard to know that I had to really, really quiet down my ego. Number one, we all have egos, right? And so I was brought up in a corporate career that when you have ego, you're more confident. And so I need to fan that ego. But actually, it's quite the opposite. There's a difference between humility and doing that graciously in a way that actually sends out the right energetics to the world. And so if we allow ourselves to go, whatever we do that is actually serving the world without the ego side, without the dark side of our shadow, without the blaming, without the giving excuse, without not taking responsibility, if we can just pull back and go, what if I take more responsibility? What if I see things from a different way? What if there's some truth in their advice that I can start testing? I don't mean applying that immediately, but maybe give it a go. Maybe apply it and see, give it a go. I can guarantee you watch your life transform and you see how real magic happens in your world.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jocelyn.
Most welcome. Thank you so much for having me.